social success also requires the expenditure of effort, and introverted people seem to be much more conservative.
Identity to me is something that's practical. Your identity it's like a dramatic role that you play out in the world. And while playing that out, it has to furnish you with a life. And what that means is that it means that it has to be negotiated with other people. And when you're a very young child and you first start to play with who you are, you live in a fantasy world. And according to some developmental psychologists, at least, particularly this is grounded in the theories of Piaget, that very young children, 2 or 3, are quite egocentric in their play. They play according to their own rules. And so they're not social yet until they're 3 or 4, which means that they have their own goals in mind, and then they erect a little fictional world around those goals, and then they play out the role within that fictional world, and that's pretend play. And when they get to be about 3 or 4 and they start playing with other kids, they have to bring their worlds together and negotiate, because both children have to want to play. And so that means identity has to expand beyond its egocentric focus and increasingly be negotiated in the social world.
Jordan Peterson is a professor and motivational speaker. He speaks about what you can do in your life to make things better and how to become the best version of yourself. His advice is that if people are impeding your development, you have to sacrifice your relationship with them. If it's valuable and it's causing you pain, let it go. You are stronger than you think, so do things that scare you. You will get better with strength, not protection. Having discipline on a daily basis can motivate you to do better. So be precise in your speech and speak about issues to get past them. Hopefully, with these tips from Jordan, you can become the best version of yourself.
I didn't think I was going to live. And I don't mean once or twice. I meant for a whole year. It seemed impossible to me that I could survive. I was too sick to go on as far as I could tell, but I didn't die, which was a shock on a daily basis. And now, well, things are much better, have been getting much better over the last 4 months, and then associated with that, I was very ill and immobilized because of that, and in a tremendous amount of pain and anxiety. And then I also wasn't engaged in any activity. I mean, I did edit my book during all of this. That's the one thing I more or less hung on to, but I didn't have an occupation, and it wasn't obvious to me that I would ever have one again. I didn't know what happened to my public reputation, say, if it was salvageable. I didn't know if I would ever be able to do any of the things that I had become accustomed to doing, because they were all complicated things. Like, my clinical practice was very complex. Being a professor is complex. Doing podcasts and interviews is very complex. Lectures, it's all difficult. And if you're not healthy and at the top of your form, you probably shouldn't be doing it at all in some sense. And so it wasn't obvious to me how I could start that up again, or if I could, or how people would respond, or if I had any right to do it. Or what I tried to do was read it. And to read something, you don't just follow the words and follow the meaning, but you take apart the sentences and you ask yourself at this level of phrase and at the level of sentence and at the level of paragraph, is this true? Are there counter arguments that can be put forward that are credible? Is this solid thinking? And I have to tell you, and I'm not trying to be flippant here, that I have rarely read a tract. Now, I read it when I was 18. It was a long time ago, right? That's 40 years ago. I've rarely read a tract that made as many errors per sentence, conceptual errors per sentence, as the Communist Manifesto. It was quite a miraculous reread. It was interesting to think about it psychologically as well, because I've read student papers that were of the same ilk in some sense, although I'm not suggesting that they were of the same level of glittering literary brilliance and polemic quality. And I also understand that the Communist Manifesto was a call for revolution and not a standard logical argument.
It's really dangerous to be casually contemptuous. Well, I've seen many professors who are contemptuous of business people. Right, well, they don't have businesses and they're angry that the business people can make all sorts of money, and that's a whole skill set they don't have, and so maybe they'd have to feel inadequate about that if they thought about it. And then I've talked to lots of business people who, regard professors as in the ivory tower and, an easy job. It's like, yeah, well, you try lecturing.
and see how easy it is about a complex subject. And publishing, it's not easy. It's really hard, just like your job. Casual contempt stops people from investigating things that might be good for them. And well, when I realized that about the baseball game, I thought there's no contemptuousness here. Clue in. There's something here that these people aren't just stupid and going out to a baseball game because they're stupid. It's very easy for us to call people who are doing something that we're not doing stupid. Don't be so sure about that. It would have been better for me if I would have had a wider variety of skills that weren't so high intensity.
Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.